Hello. What a fabulous conference. I am so cheesed off that I haven't been able to be here up to now. Rushed in, rushed out.
We miss you too, dear.
Oh, how lovely. Thank you. Well, yeah, let's do something really practical. We're going to talk about copywriting. We're going to have goes at copywriting. I think it's worth just pointing out before we start that you can write the most beautiful copy in the world. But if you're sending out things that look like that, it's going to make not the blindest bit of difference. Does anyone know if what they're sending out with their emails comes into people's inboxes looking like that? We'll talk about that in a bit, yeah, because it's worth checking, because it kind of makes all that time you've spent crafting perfect copy completely pointless, doesn't it? We'll talk about that in a bit. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at audiences. We're going to kind of start from the audience's point of view, and I've got the best job in the world because one of the things I do is I go around talking to audiences, and you should just hear them talk about what we say about what we do. Ooh, it's heartbreaking. So I'll kind of let you in on some of the things they've asked me to tell you. What do they think of what we write? Yeah. And let's kind of try and walk in their shoes for a bit. Let's kind of look at all the research there is about how audiences engage with what we do and see what that means for what we write. And I'm afraid everything boils down that most of us went to college. And it's a catastrophe, frankly. And we'll talk about how to get round the fact that you went to college. We're going to talk a lot about persuading people, because I think that's what we forget to do. So we'll look at why they need persuading and how we can persuade them in lots of practical ways. And I'm going to give you a gazillion top tips. Some of them are not going to work for you. Some of them are just going to be, you're going to look at me and go, I can't believe you just said that. Forget it, because the next tip will be something that's going to help you. So we're going to try out lots of stuff. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but we're just going to practice, test out things. And if they work, keep them. If they don't, chuck them. So loads of top tips there. So let's start with, you've got an A5 piece of paper and a great big fat Sharpie, which I want back at the end. I did this a couple of weeks ago and half my Sharpies vanished. So I want them back. Ha. Grab your piece of paper, write nice and big for me with your Sharpie, because let's take a punt. What percentage of the UK population said they visited the cinema at least once a month in the past year? Once a month.
Said they did or actually did?
Said they did, because we don't know if they actually did. They could be lying through their teeth. It's unlikely because of the way the research is carried out. So it's likely to be accurate, but we without implanting a chip in their brain, it's a bit difficult to tell.
So they're eating the same.
Nice and big. Nice and big. What percentage of the UK population said they visited the cinema at least once a month? We're taking a punt. Ooh. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay, some of you have written big, and some of you are really testing my eyesight. I think we got 15, 38, 8, 5, 45, 3, 40, 65, 1, 20, 30, 10, 20, 20, 30, 53, 22, 5, 5, 65, 4, 45, 60. Wow! So we've gone from 1 to 65. Can I ask a really stupid question? What does that say about our worldview? So let's imagine that we think that 1% of the UK population goes to the cinema at least once a month. What does that mean for how we see what we do? That not very many, it's useless because not very many people want it.
Yes.
It's irrelevant.
Conversely, it could mean that we see that there is a wide spread of diverse activities that a massive population may want to do.
So they might be so busy doing other things that we've got to fight for space.
Yeah, it's not a comment so much on the value of what we do. It's
About
more
them.
like looking at. What
So
they
they're
want.
so busy that we have got to fight like mad to get their attention and go, yeah, okay, I like that. What happens if we're at the other end of the room and we think that 65% of people come once a month?
Wide optimism.
Hugely optimistic, yeah, and then
Setting yourself up for quite.
really, really depressed when they don't show up. Yeah? What else? I don't know. What else does that mean about the way you see the world?
You're communicating to like more than half of the population.
Yeah, so you assume that more than half the population is going to be interested in what you do, yeah. Whereas I think if we, at the other end, you think we're communicating with a tiny minority who are actually going to understand what we do.
And also,
Yeah.
it's like if you're if you assume that it's 65%, then it's less of a struggle. Like you're speaking to like a friendly audience, somebody who's like likely to go anyway, rather than.
Yeah. And actually, maybe that makes us a bit complacent, perhaps a little teeny bit. You know, they're interested, they're up for it. We've just got to tell them it's on, and then we can. Yeah, it's interesting. Wow. So that could also say that we are doing very different kinds of activity, actually, as well, couldn't it? For very different communication, for very different communities. So it could be we've got this huge range because we've got this range of things that we're about. Okay. Interesting, isn't it? So it's kind of like smack in the middle, really. Wow. Yeah. So just under a third of people are like cinema so much that they're going once a month. What about the nuts, the cinema nuts? Write it down nice and big so I don't have to do this. People who go to the cinema 50 times a year. People have got those gold passes from Showcase. But don't forget, we're talking about any sort of cinema here. Wave them in the air. Oh, 4, 1, 5, 20, 2, 2, 4, 6, 4, 10, 10, 8, 5, 3, 5, 3. I've not done your row. 5, row at the back. Next to the back. 7, 5, rough. 3, 5, 10, 5, 3. We're kind of in the same ballpark, aren't we? Still quite a big difference between 1 and 10, though. Yeah. It is 3. It is 3. So really, we're not talking about film buffs. If we're going to engage more people in what we do, we're not actually talking about film buffs because they represent quite a small proportion of the people who engage with cinema. I love this, but I love this even more. And actually, it's probably about this. You know, who are we talking to? Are we talking to the film buffs who would probably come anyway? Somebody said that earlier. Or are we talking to moviegoers? I don't know. It's that loving relationship that we need to develop. And I think that's what copy's about, really. So let's talk about how ticket buyers choose. Because I've got good news and bad news, and it's the same thing. And that is that film is just the excuse for wanting to do a whole load of other things. It's not the main reason why they go. It's kind of like almost a byproduct. So I went and talked to a whole load of cinema goers, and actually some of them seem to be quite typical of a chunk of the audience. So they very kindly let me take their picture. So here is a socialiser. Can you guess what type of film she was actually seeing? Really depressing, Russian, subtitled, very, very slow. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? So she's going because there's nothing on the telly, and she's up for new experiences. So she goes, oh, I'm just down the road, it's only 5 minutes walk, I'm just going to go and see what's on. You know, whatever it is, I'm going to sit and look at it. Yeah. If you'd have asked me to take a punt at what this group of people, there are about 60 of them watching this Russian film in Stanford Arts Centre, what they would have said, I think the last film I'd have suggested was Gone with the Wind. But yeah, there we go. Here's another one. He loves classical music. It's not the main thing he sees at all, though. Film. And he's loyal to the Arts Centre. He feels comfortable at the Arts Centre. That's how interested in film he is. Thought about it quite a while and just gave in. Isn't it interesting? Because these were quite frequent attenders at the venue. And I think what we have is sort of 3 different ways of choosing. So we've got the people who go, you know, I want to see this film, when's it on? They've made their mind up, you're the most convenient place. They might actually see when the most convenient time is. If they're lucky enough to live in Manchester, if they live where I live in Grantham, they'll be lucky to see it at all. We've got one little teeny weeny little shed that has got 2 screens. You've also got the people who are doing the what can me and my friends see on Saturday, or like these guys. They're on their own, by the way, the two people we've just seen, because they couldn't persuade anyone to come with them to go and see a really gorgeously beautiful but very slow Russian film with subtitles. But yeah, what can me and my friends see on Saturday? What looks interesting. So literally they're just up for anything, and they're looking at what we're saying and going, what catches my attention? What looks interesting? I'm up for anything really that might appeal. And the interesting thing is that 2 out of the 3 are absolutely not convinced, and we've got to persuade them. They're open to persuade them, but we've got to persuade them. I love this. I love this. I'm gonna show you things that somebody in this room possibly has written. So if you want to own up to it, you can. Does anyone recognise this? It's so lovely. Look at this. It's so brilliant. Oh, you're really, really helping people do the what can me and my friends see on Saturday. Because the audiences tell me the hardest thing is persuading their friends. They love film, but actually it's much easier to go to the pub. It's much easier to agree to go to the pub. So actually having something that you can share and persuade them is really helpful. Unfortunately, if what the copy says is directed by somebody unpronounceable, this is a 160-minute film about... It's not very helpful, but this is beautiful because it says immediately what it is and what it's about, and you're making it easy to share. Fantastic. I love this as well. Who's this? They're so gorgeous. Because you've got all 3 ways on one page. So you've got the click on your calendar because you know that you're looking to go out on the 2nd of December. You've got the kind of what's on, and you've got kind of things that you can scan really, really easy. So hardly any copy that says immediately what it's about, with a gorgeous picture that gives you the flavour, and you can scan down it really quickly and go, what looks interesting? Love it to bits. And then you can click on them, I think, to find out more. So what are they doing? So whether you've got a brochure or a website, they're doing pretty much the same thing. Ooh. Yay. Chug, chug, chug. Actually, I think Michael opened this for me already. Let me just see if I can find it. Oops. Oh God, I'm having a Mac crisis. Here we go. Yeah, so what are they doing? Whether it's online or offline, they're doing the same thing. They all say they're shorter times. They say things like, I get this every month, but I don't have time to read it, so I read it on the loo, and even then my 5-year-old's trying to kick the door down. Or the only time I have to read this is in the coffee break at work. So they're having to read it really quite quickly. And what they do is it's going to flip, it's going to scroll, isn't it? They're scrolling through, or they're flipping through physically. If you watch them, just stand in your foyer and just watch people do it. They flip through quite quickly, and they all say exactly the same thing. I'm looking for something that looks interesting. Can you... What do you think constitutes looks interesting?
Pictures.
Here's the pictures. Hello.
Hi, that's my festival, and we redesigned because of this exact problem.
Absolutely.
And now we have more pictures.
It's the pictures and it's the big writing. So what I love about what you've done is it's got big writing. You know. Yeah. So it's got big writing so that you can actually see immediately something that tells you what it's about. Whoops-a-daisy, this is all going pear-shaped now. Help! I want to get back to my presentation. Come on, let me get back to my presentation. So exciting, yeah. So what we've got to do is grab their attention really quickly. I love this. Who's this? This is so brilliant. Why does this work? Why is this such a good attention grabber?
There's a goat,
Yeah.
Or sheep, sorry,
Sheep.
sheep.
Staring at you. Eye contact. We are so programmed as human beings to make eye contact that any image with eye contact grabs your attention. But can you see? It says exactly what's in the tin. One family's quest to breed the perfect sheep. And you know what it's about in 7 words, and you don't have to work at it. So when I scanned this on whose ever website it was, or whose ever brochure it was, immediately I knew that what, you know, whether this was going to be interesting or not. So it works beautifully. Whose is this? Yeah. Great
it's ours.
website.
It's New Horizons.
It's New Horizons.
Woo, cool. It's great website, but it's quite difficult to scan because there's no pictures and no big writing. So if you don't already know the film, it's quite difficult to choose what you might be interested in, because you've got to click on something, go to another page, come back to the list, click on something, go to another page. So you can't do that shortlisting thing. Wouldn't it be great if down here there was just 7 words under each title that said what it was like, what it was about? Just 7 words. You film enthusiasts, you're going to know. In space, no one can hear you scream. Yeah, exactly. Because we remember them. You know, we really, really remember them. So that's.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You mean that in a way, like this website is implying that people already they're coming to this because they know all about these films. They just want to know what time they can see it. So you're removing.
Yeah,
those who
2/3 of
don't
the
know what
audience.
So you're adding a barrier for anyone who's not a film
Yeah.
connoisseur.
As you'll see later, audiences are really scared by this unless they're already part of this group. Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about communicating effectively. Hurrah! What we're trying to do is not pretend to be someone else. My stepdaughter, I can absolutely, if we're having an argument, I can absolutely break the atmosphere and she will burst into giggles, roll on the floor laughing. Not in a good way, if I say cool. So pretending to be someone else doesn't work. So what we're trying to do is find common ground. So we're trying to find a common ground where we can be ourselves as an organisation and as somebody working for that organisation, and that the reader can feel confident and comfortable with, so that they're going to listen to us. If that doesn't happen, if there's no common ground, they don't even listen. And that they understand us, And above all, because we're trying to persuade them that they believe us. So that's all it's about, being listened to, understood and believed. So let's look at whether that works. Unfortunately, they don't want to listen. These are all things that really, really, really people said to me. This has been written by clever people for other clever people who are equally in the know. It's not written for us. It's shorthand. A lot of it's shorthand. Exciting new film, but I've never heard of him. And if you've been really into film, but it's not a hook to pick up Mr. and Mrs. Average. Got quite shirty, bless him. He's from Inverness, by the way. I don't know if that's relevant, but he was. I was quite puzzled about why he got shirty. What I'd asked them to do is I'd put a whole load of print on a table and said, find something you fancy going to see. And he got shirty. Why has he got shirty? He's been made to feel stupid. I think that was what was. It's difficult. Have we just made you feel stupid? I couldn't ask, but that was what I felt. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Ooh. It's taken me years to learn to read through all the write-ups. All these words are stupefying. I hope she didn't mean stupefying. I hope she meant stupendous. I think the thought of us telling us that they're going to be stupefied. Yeah. Dramatic, electric, never to be forgotten. And I used to believe it, all this hype. And I died at this point because I swear to God that I have used every single one of these words at least 100 times. And I got quite puzzled because, dramatic is not a bad word, is it? And I was quite puzzled about why she was objecting to it. I don't know. What do you think?
Just because it's overused doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so it's literally that we use it so often that it doesn't mean anything anymore.
I think
Okay.
maybe that you're telling them what to think of it as well. So
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
some
Yeah,
people
it's
might-
dramatic. Believe
What
me,
does that
take it or
mean
leave it.
anyway?
I'm
Like,
telling you.
Dramatic is it's drama. It doesn't mean anything. So it's just a word.
Yeah. Mm.
People get
Kind of a bit
angry.
worrying, really. I think that was my wake-up call, that telling people what to think is not a good thing to do. Yeah. And I'm afraid they certainly don't understand us. I'd be put off by the leaflet straight away. It's so soothed, so pretentious, I'd just discard it. And what does it mean? Intricate, structured mechanisms, what does it mean? I want to be able to be told what it will be like and what I am buying. It really did all get quite stroppy, really. So it's very interesting. So we are literally setting up barriers by what we write that stops people coming to things. They're up for it, they're open to persuasion, and then we open our mouths or pick up a pen and we've turned them off. So what are we going to do about it? Okay, so the principles are basically know who you're talking to and actually talk to them. This is where going to college becomes such a problem, because actually we've forgotten how to communicate. The moment we pick up a pen, we go into essay mode. Okay, so let's have a go. You have got 3 postcards. Grab a postcard. I'm going to steal one of your postcards. Can I just give you a clue? That's the side the address goes on. So you've only got that side to write on. Just because they're, this is like so last century postcards. Choose one of your own organisation's target markets. Doesn't matter which one, really. And now think about someone you really, really know in real life who's like that target market. So somebody you really know and have talked to in real life that's like that target market. They don't have to be your audience, but that's like them. Someone with a name. Who are you thinking of? Yeah, what are they called?
Actually, my dad.
Your dad, cool. Who are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of Claire, my grandma.
Oh, that's lovely. What about you? Who are you thinking
My
of?
friend Guy.
Your friend? Oh, fantastic. That's really cool. Is anybody not thinking of anyone? Choices. Literally think of somebody who you know that's in your street or in your... Because it's not an easy thing to do, because you've just got to pick someone really. Yeah, cool. Now, this is the difficult bit. I want you to think about your favourite film. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not even going to ask you what your favourite film is. It's just for this next 30 seconds, what's your favourite film? So anybody who spends the rest of this session thinking about what their favourite film is, don't. So it doesn't matter, just your favourite film. Whatevs. Your favourite film, isn't it? Cool. Right, what I'd like you to do is write that person a postcard persuading them to come with you to see your favourite film. A postcard that you could really, really, put in the post box. How do postcards start? Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Just another minute or so. God, that was amazing. Something really weird happened there. You all kind of looked up, and then you went, because we're in trouble. We're in trouble because that was supposed to take longer than this, and most of you have finished. Why was it so quick? I mean, literally just went, and I was just checking you haven't written one word in big writing just then. But no, you filled your postcard, What happened?
We are very passionate about this one film. You know,
It's our favourite film.
And it's probably somebody we know.
It's a very small card.
It's a very small card. This is hint and tip number 1. If you're writing little copy for a website or a season brochure or something, use a little piece of paper. There's nothing more damaging than the infinite computer screen, because your brain goes, wah! Whereas a little piece of paper, perfect. So, because you love the film, and because you know the person, it felt easy. How does that work?
Because you know what their buttons are.
You know what their buttons
Yeah,
are.
you know how to make them.
Yeah. So you know how to persuade because you know something about them. Okay. Wow. Interesting. How did it feel when you did it? Did anyone get writers? Was anyone going agony, agony? Agony, agony. Tell me about agony, agony. You first, and then you.
Well, I picked somebody I don't know that well, but
Okay.
I probably should have gone.
Well, you were making some assumptions, and they just took a little bit more thinking about what you know about them, and then putting things together, that made sense, and making some assumptions based on what you know. Yeah, cool.
Sorry, it wasn't acting. It was actually quite easy. But I just put up my hand to share.
Share.
Okay. I spend most of my time trying to convince friends to go and see films that they don't want to see. And also, Reading Human Rights Film Festival, it's like you have to convince people to come to films that are hard to watch. So I always emphasize the positives, no matter how sort of broad they are.
Yeah.
So inspiring and sort of and passionate and challenging, but in a
Yeah.
good way type element
Yeah.
of film.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do you then, which is the approach that we take as well, but how do you prevent that from being too generic? Because if you're trying to always find the positive and inspiring, and that's what, how do you remain specific about the film, and how do you remain truthful about kind of
Well,
what
let's
you're
test
telling
it out. Let's see what you've put. So we've got to be truthful because we need them to believe us. And boy, oh boy, if they catch us out, they so don't forgive.
Yeah.
And we've got to stop things all sounding the same. And that's another thing that audiences say. Less about film, but more about other kinds of arts event. It all sounded the same. It all sounded like an interesting new interpretation. Somebody said to me the other day, yeah. Let's have a look. How have you started? So, what was your first?
A line.
Yeah,
I
dear,
know,
dear.
yes,
You put dear.
Yes, I did.
Dear Val,
Dear Becky.
What did you put? Zach. So how comes Zach? Yeah, like you were going to put Patrick or something. You did say dear. You did say dear. Sorry. But you could have just gone Zach. If you knew them really, really well, dear is a little bit formal, isn't it?
Go high,
Hi. Yeah.
which I never do.
Anybody not put dear? Yeah. What did you?
Hey.
Hey. Yeah. Hey.
hello.
Hello. Yeah. So instantly, we've made a really complicated decision really, really easily about tone of voice. Just because we've got that image of that person we're talking to in our heads. Wow. How did you finish off? What's the very, very last thing you put? What did you put? How did it finish?
My favourite last word is my name,
Victoria. Yeah, Victoria. Yeah. What's the very last thing?
My name also.
Just like that. Just you know.
Just Paul. Like, it's not someone I know well
Paul.
enough to say love.
Yeah. Cool.
So just
Paul.
I would have put, cheers, or yours sincerely, Chris, or something. But the pen's a bit thick for the size of the paper.
Slightly on purpose.
Yeah.
What's the difference between yours sincerely and cheers?
Just the tone, isn't it?
Yeah. What does yours sincerely do?
Really formal.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Just the tone on the-
Whereas cheers is hey, jolly, all the rest of it. Yeah, it's a big difference, isn't there?
But isn't there a generational difference about this? If
Yeah.
you're writing to the
Yeah.
generation of people
Yeah.
who actually wrote postcards,
Yeah.
and
Oh, watch it, watch it. What? Do you know what? Somebody started going on about the over 55s and started using the word crumbly.
Wow.
As someone who is 54. Yeah.
I'm not. No, it's a.
I know, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
serious point that there are people who used,
Yeah.
and in a lot of cases, because
Yeah.
they're not web wise,
Yeah.
still do use letters and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
postcards.
Yeah.
I still get
Yeah,
slightly
yeah, cool.
irritated.
So what you're saying is, you know from thinking about the kind of person that you're
Yeah.
talking to, who that is, and you would choose yours sincerely, and it
Yeah.
would be absolutely appropriate. And if you put cheers, they would be going, "I'm sorry, excuse me," you know, because you're being over familiar. Yeah,
I get irritated when I
perfect.
get emails
Yep.
from people that I've never dealt with before, cold calls from. I've never
Yeah,
had, but,
yeah.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah,
Who the hell are
absolutely.
you?
So the tone of voice thing is really, really important. So how you start and how you finish is so important. Why is that bit at the end really, really important?
Well, it's saying who you are, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a statement of all of the things I've just said belong to me.
Yeah, I'm a real person and I'm really, really talking to you and I really, really mean it. Yeah, absolutely. Whereas if it's without that bit at the beginning and bit at the end that says I'm really talking to you and I've thought about it and this is, you know, I put my name against what I've written because I believe it, and actually it becomes a... Now, obviously, you can't put dear whatever and lots of love thingy in your season brochure. I know that. But there's so much where we could do that and it makes such a difference. Did you know that you can increase your open rates for your emailings by 40% by just putting an appropriate salutation at the beginning that can be seen in the preview pane? It's amazing, isn't it? Just because they go, this is not spam, it's actually addressed to me, they must mean it. And
Is that still true?
apparently, I talked to the Blessed Susan Hallam the other day and she said it's still true.
So if
The
you put
preview
their
pane,
name-
it's got to be
so if
visible
it
at the
says,
preview pane.
Hello, Anne.
Yeah.
It's much better than just like, here is your weekly newsletter.
Yes, because this is not addressed to you. It is a bit of produced by a robot, and it's cut and pasted from the website anyway, so there's no point in reading it. Yeah. Okay. What is your first whole line? What's your first whole line?
As one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made, you should come and see Blade Runner on the big screen.
Whoa, cool. That's a kind of whoa. What was your first line?
Mine was, I think you should come see this film.
Cool. Ooh. So I think you should come and see this film. Whoa. So immediately it's very personal. Yeah. What was your first line?
Remember how you told me you'd love to see some more films?
Ooh. What does that do?
Blackmail.
Emotional blackmail. But also remember, and immediately you've got them going, yeah, noddy noddy, or no, but you've got them reacting, haven't you? Yeah. What's your first line?
I'm going to sing on Saturday.
Oh, cool.
I'd love you to come.
Whoa, emotional blackmail. But you know, that I thing is so powerful. Cool. Okay. What's the very last thing you've put? Who haven't I asked so far? I haven't asked you. What's the last thing you've put?
I put, there is also an underlying love story which I think you'll enjoy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Who haven't I asked? What's your last thing you've written?
Get on your trench coat, I'll meet you there.
Whoa. Okay. Wow. Who else haven't I asked? Somebody who I haven't asked yet. Who haven't I bullied yet? Have I bullied you yet?
I reckon it would be a good laugh.
Ooh. There are two sorts of things going on here, aren't there? You guys have done what's known as a clincher. The final, most powerful reason why they should go, yep. And some of it's emotional blackmail and some of it is the big reason. And yeah, I think that's interesting. Why do you think what you've written as your last thing works so well?
Well, it's Matrix. And
I mean, no, just your last sentence, technically. Why do you think that works so brilliantly? Because it does.
well, I don't know, it's more of a friendly sign-off.
It's a call to action.
Yeah.
You're getting them to do, I'll meet you there. It's
Yeah.
assuming that they're going to do it. And you're, yeah, wow. Ah, I love it. I completely adore it. There's something very interesting has happened because what you have just done is you have just written something that obeys the 4 rules of brilliant copy, effective copy, shouldn't overstate the case. So you've done the thing in your first sentences that's the opener that makes a connection. You've been so persuasive. You've not given facts, boring facts about the film. You've given reasons to come along. I just love the simple, straightforward style. You've got short sentences, you've got punchy sentences, and you've got these clinchers at the end that do two possible things. One, it's the big reason, or it's the call to action. And that's what makes effective copy. When you've got audiences going, what looks interesting, my 5-year-old is actually about to break the lock on the door of the bathroom and I've got to choose a film. Whoa. You've sucked them in, you've got their attention. Do you feel you've been dishonest? Yeah, so we've actually managed to be really, really persuasive without doing that awful thing about, hyping or lying or, yeah.
I'm slightly puzzled by the reasons, not facts.
We're going to talk about that in a second, because it just, to apply this in your work and context takes a bit of thinking about, but I'll give you some examples. Cool. Right. So let us talk about this idea of the opener that makes a connection between you. Let's unpick that. That's why this doesn't work, isn't it? Are you going to, if you get that in your inbox, are you going to click to view it in your browser?
It looks more like spam than a communication to me, but I don't understand. I mean, what am I clicking on?
Yeah. It tells you nothing about what it might be. Have you noticed, so this is a preview pane in Outlook, have you noticed how the subject lines become invisible? You know that thing called banner blindness, where there's the stripe across the top that you completely ignore? That's what's going on. So unless there's something in that thing, you're not going to do anything. And because it's not made a connection with you, there's no way in a gazillion years, unless you're a real fan of Nottingham Playhouse, that you are going to click on that to view this email as a web page. Why does it look like that?
Because there's a block on their Outlook around downloading pictures.
Yeah,
It has to answer.
most browsers now come with pictures turned off because people don't have time for the bastards to load, and
Particularly people that, if they're opening them at work.
yeah, absolutely. So people keep it turned off. What's the answer?
Oh, next.
Yeah, but I think you could do something with this and not lose the joy that is pictures for those that go, yeah, I'm interested, I'm going to click on this. I think you'd have some big writing at the top. And bless them, I got an email literally I looked at on the train this morning because I pointed this out to them last week. They fixed it, and I just got some big writing at the top. So when you look on the, there's a reason to go. Okay, so how can we make a question? Make a connection. We can ask a question. So I completely adore this. It makes a connection because it's something you can immediately, you're being asked to engage with it, and you either nod or you wonder or whatever. It's a great thing for your documentary festival. Ask the question, because you're about making people think. So I love this. This Christmas, what if every book you read became real? Wow. Immediately you're opening a door to a world of wonder and imagination. Fabulous. Woo. Using active language. So that thing where you were all going, I, you, me. Yeah, absolutely. And I completely adore this. Experience unforgettable cinema in South Norwood's beautiful Grade 2 Lucy. So immediately you've got, yay, cool. I love the way you write. It really makes a difference, because when I looked at your films, I was immediately grabbed, and I spent more time on your website and a couple of the others than anybody else's, because I just kept wanting to read on because you'd grabbed me. Yay. And what I love is, what's the most important reason for coming to Stanley's Film Club? It's the experience and the surroundings, because you can so easily buy a DVD. or rent a DVD, can't you? Or download a DVD. You know, what's the point? It's about seeing it on the big screen, like you said, Martin. You know, why would you want on earth would you want to go and see an old film in a cinema when you could just download it? It's because it's on the big screen. It's because it's in beautiful surrounding. It's because etc. Shut up, Heather. Really, really talk to them. Wow, whose is this? Here's a list of films that we'll be screening with Flicks in the Sticks over the coming months. If you haven't been to one of our screenings before, please give us a try. Oh, lovely. Sort of not expecting everybody to know exactly what's going on. Or this, completely adore this as well. Your Community Cinema with hand-picked recent indie cult and British films. Yeah. It's wonderful. The other thing we need to do, now this is interesting because not a single one of you could I find, and I spent about a day looking at all your websites and brochures and things like that, not a single one of you did this. And that's grab people's attention. So because I couldn't find a cinema example from in the room, I've got a couple of drama examples. So grab their attention that makes them go, yeah, I'm there. So this is my favourite piece of copy at the moment. 3rd of May 1979, South Wales. Thatcher is counting her votes, Sid Vicious is spinning in his grave, and 6 Welsh miners are trapped down a coal mine. Whoa, that's so powerful, isn't it? You are immediately there. Why does that work? Why am I getting excited? Yeah.
You have a sense of place and time, and there's an urgency to that.
Yeah. So it's putting you into that place and putting you into that time, so you feel maybe you're there. Yeah. Why is there a sense of urgency? Yeah, yeah. And then it culminates in, and 6 Welsh miners are trapped down a coal. Whoa, yeah, absolutely. Do you know how most of your copy starts?
A film about.
Well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, comma, this film, da-da-da-da-da-da. Honest to God, I kept trying to find things that weren't da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, comma. Do you know why that's hard to skim? Because you have to remember that beginning bit. For that beginning bit to make sense, you have to remember it until you get to the end of the sentence. So if you're skimming, you just go, what? And move on. So if you do anything as a result of today, it would be to try and not for every single thing. Sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's relevant, but not often. So the da-da-da-da-da-da. Get to the point, you know? Let's have a look at this drama example. Jaw-dropping action sequences, slapstick comedy, awe-inspiring stunts and heaps of attitude to make one of the most high-energy physical theatre shows ever seen in Blackpool. They're doing that thing of hyping, aren't they? And telling me what to think. In a dreary office, 4 wage slaves invent a game to liven up their day and pass the time when the boss isn't. Do you know, I'm bored already. Blam! But what starts off with flicking paper clips and playing waste bin basketball rapidly escalates into an explosive showdown as they reenact their favourite movie scenes, putting office life, oh my God, when are we going to get to the end of the sentence, through the shedder and transforming it into a world of superheroes, aliens, classic boss. How can they have made this amazing show sound so boring? See how many film references you can spot as they pile upon each other at breakneck speed. If you've ever sat at work or in a classroom watching the clock and willing it to move, this is the show for you. And if you can find a way to have more fun than watching Blam, it's probably illegal. Look what happens if we put that at the beginning.
Yeah.
If you've ever sat at work or in a classroom watching the clock, this is the show for you. You're there, aren't you?
Would you not have risked putting Blam is probably illegal at the front?
I think it's a really good clincher.
Yeah.
So you do need something at the beginning, and you do need something at the end. So don't, because it would be awful to go, really exciting, boring, 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 I've finished now. So the clincher at the end is really good, yeah.
I'm just wondering, with the organisations that you speak to and stuff, we're also doing this. Do you find that it's the same eyes doing the copywriting and the copy editing, and so you're not seeing that because it's we're such small teams, and that I think that seeing that makes perfect
That's
sense.
exactly it. You're so close to what you do that actually it's really hard to do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing which we'll talk about is usually you're editing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard to do, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So if you're editing, you go into essay mode because editing is a left brain thing, communicating and making connections to people is a right brain thing, and you can't do both at the same time. Well, some people are really clever and can, but very few. I can't. No, so you need to,
Yeah, you don't see the nuances.
Yeah,
and sometimes
exactly. The other thing that ends is committee copy,
Mm-hmm.
where you've got about 7 or 8 people fiddling about with stuff. That ends up like that as well.
Because obviously, like, I mean, surely they're just, I mean, you're not really leaving anything to your imagination here, are you?
Mm.
It's just like explaining the entire thing.
Mm.
I mean, it's like you've already seen it.
Yeah, and that's the problem with you lot telling the story of the film. Or the story of the documentary, you know, you've set out the argument, whereas to get people wondering and asking themselves what the answer might be and trying to work it out, you know, that's really engaging. Yeah, and then you might do a clincher at the end. Cool. Using the words that they would use. Whose is this? Not in the room. I love this so much. Because I think it does very cleverly do that thing where you're not pretending to be someone else, but you have found common ground with these the genre fanatics. So we love 2000 AD, you love 2000 AD, why not we all get together and celebrate that in a great big group hug or a group function. Anyway, with Tharg's Aid we have... You so want to click on that, don't you? Because it's fun. In a way that this festival is fun. Love it to bits. Martin, I think you do this really, really well with your festival, your children's festival. You know, that actually you make it sound such good fun. And you don't pretend to be a kid, you know, you do make that happen by still being your quite serious organisation.
What we try and do, we work with young people, so we write the copy for the film, but we ask them for 7, 10 words in their words so that they are speaking directly to someone.
Yeah, perfect. So you do that 7-word headliney thing because it's coming from them. So it's what they think is important in their words. Yeah, great, cool, brilliant. Okay. Sometimes we have to warm up. And that's because we've been to college as well. We're in essay mode. So you have to do that introductory paragraph where you lay... So have a look at this. While investigate... Does this belong to anybody? Can't remember whose it is. While investigating her late parents' involvement with the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, BP, Miranda Pennell came across the letters of a petroleum geologist in Iran in the 1930s who would later embark on a search for the origins of civilization. Setting out on its own exploration to decipher signs from the fragmented images buried in the BP archive, the host interweaves stories drawn from both personal memory and from the records of an imperial history. Pennell's compelling film is about the stories we tell, the facts and fictions we live by, and their consequences. The trouble is that by the time it gets interesting, it's too late. But look what happens if we start in the middle. This film is about the stories we tell, the facts and fictions we live by, and their consequences. And immediately you've started thinking about the issue that the film's supposed to make you think about. And then the rest of the copy is exactly the same, except just a slight clincher at the end, more of a clincher at the end. The host interweaves stories drawn from both personal memory and from the records of an imperial history. Whoa. Yeah. It's just weird just starting in the middle and turning it upside down has such a strong impact.
It used to be the first rule of the newspaper sub-editor. Blue pencil the first paragraph.
Oh, literally delete it completely?
Oh, yeah, and of
Okay.
course, if you were then writing it and passing it to the sub, you'd stick something in the first paragraph that you could quite happily kiss goodbye to. So it became a public domain. One of the other problems today, you were talking about committee compilation. The opposite problem is happening in the press. Where in the old days you had the reporter, the sub-editor, then it went down to the typeset, and at every level there was an editorial input. Now it goes straight onto the screen, straight into the press, and it might not even be seen by anybody else. So there's no checks and balances there.
No.
You do get some immediacy if you're doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we've talked about how brilliant you are at writing effective copy that obeys all those rules, and it was interesting that we had people asking questions to start off with. We had people, doing all of those things that we've been talking about in terms of starting off. How do you do it when you actually don't live with your audience and don't know everything there is to know about them? So let's meet someone. I'm going to double click on that to make it big. Yay! And I'm going to press play.
I'm Anna, I'm 35. I have 2 little girls and I have my own business. I'm a very busy mum, very busy lady. My partner's Matt and we run a local pub which keeps us both very busy. Typical day is running around after my girls, sorting them out, taking them to play school, getting Matt ready for work, getting the tills done, then it's lunchtime, Harriet's home, then it's tea time, Matt goes back to work, so it's all very busy. And then 2 days a week I work as well in the kitchen, so that's very hectic, but I managed to leave the girls to Matt then. I don't have much spare time, but when I do have spare time, it's very precious in what I do with it. I like going walking, and sometimes I try and pick a book up, but not very often, because there's always one that wants something or somebody wants something, so yeah, very busy. Right, I last went to the cinema to see I Am Legend. I can't remember when that was, I think it was before Christmas last year. Matt decided that he wanted to go. We had a spare afternoon without any kids, so we went off to see it, and I didn't really see much of it because I was looking behind my scarf for most of the time because it was quite scary. I don't really know. I can watch it now, it's on DVD, I can watch it again and again, but that first time it was just a little bit too much for me really, but nothing with anything too scary in it. I don't do scary films at all. I'm a bit of a chick flick, I suppose. Yeah. I'm really into Monica the Glen at the minute, which is really quite sad, but no, I love it. I watched it before when it was on the BBC, and I'm watching it all again, repeating again, so I'm loving that. I like lots of different sort of music, like quite modern music. I'm into John Denver and ABBA and Glenn Campbell, you name it, I love it. So yeah, lots of different things. We went to see Mamma Mia in the West End in London with one of my friends that lives down there. It was a birthday treat. We had cocktails and things like that, so it was very good. I went to see the matinee and had a lovely dinner afterwards, so it was good fun. The music, basically, just love ABBA anyway, but just the whole show, it's very clever the way they put it together, really, because the whole show is around the music, not, the music wasn't written for the show, it's the other way around, so it's very clever how they've done it. But just love to go to the theatre, having drinks, everything afterwards, it was really good fun. Time before that was Nottingham, I think, but it's about 10 years ago, and I can't remember for the life of me what I went to see. I know I went with friends, and I could probably tell you what I ate before we went, but I can't remember what we went to see. I remember standing in the foyer afterwards holding a programme, but I can't tell you what it was. Well, I'm going at Christmas to see the pantomime with Harriet.
Bless her. Bless her. Guess. So people were going to me, Mamma Mia, the film, pointless, completely pointless, they came in, saw Mamma Mia, went away, loads of people will never see them again. Guess what proportion at Stamford Arts Centre, which we looked at earlier, saw another film having come in for the first time to see Mamma Mia? Took a punt.
50%?
80% came back and saw another film. 80%. They'd never been before, came in for Mamma Mia, they went, wow, this is really nice, saw another film within 12 months. Pretty amazing, isn't it? So they were dismissing Mamma Mia, they were not mailing them even, but just, even though they were being ignored, they came back. I love that. And she was one of them, which is how I found her. Bless her. Yeah. What I'd like you to do, if you're happy doing it, is to write Anna a postcard persuading her to come with you to see your favourite film.
The same one we just read about.
Same one. Same one. Oh, that is not what I'm looking for. The same film, but this time persuade Anna to come with you. And if it's not the kind of film she says she'd like, just think how you'd persuade her.
What's her name, sorry?
Anna. How did that feel? Harder because what was going on?
More glossing over. A lot more glossing over. It's really uncomfortable. But
Okay, so it was more difficult to persuade her because you've got a
difficult though.
difficult film for Ms. Chick Flick. Yeah, yeah, it's the experience rather than, yeah, cool. So that's interesting. So what you've done is found things that she likes and talked about those a lot. You're not pretending it's not, but you're emphasising the things that you know she'll respond to.
I really couldn't find anything that related to what I know to be her interests or her. And I know she's got very little time to go into anything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see how she could come and see this as someone who's been to cinema once in the last 2 years or whatever.
So what was the film you were talking about?
It's a documentary about biodynamic farming. And it's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, but I really just, and the music is beautiful, but it's got it's kind of a cappella singing by the Hippie ensemble. It's like,
That's hard.
It's a challenge, that one.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, when we did screen it at our festival, we screened it with with food, so maybe I was thinking specifically about that screening after the food, about that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think Anna feels quite channeled by her kids and her husband. I mean, she talks about having to get her husband ready for work and stuff, bless. So I wonder whether, find your mind again type thing might be. Because she does, this is a rural country pub that she works at, so I don't know.
Maybe if I'd known that, I could
Yeah, exactly, it's not
rural
fair.
angle rather than,
And also, not everybody in your audience works for a rural country pub.
The nature, I mean, the one thing I was trying to find was the nature thing, because it spans full season, and for someone who likes to go for walks, that's...
Yeah, beautiful, 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 yeah, okay. Somebody else, what was going on in your head?
I actually picked a rom-com, which made it
Oh!
slightly easier. It's a very old one. It's a film called Activity.
Okay. So she still won't have heard of it.
Well, she won't have heard of it, and so I think the challenge with her is just getting her out of the house.
Yeah,
I made a line in, it's a bit naughty, so you can't bring the kids along. I thought related to her particular circumstances.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Cool. So it felt a bit harder, but what you could do was stitch together the things that you could see on that and find reasons that were pretty convincing. Is anybody really, really unhappy with their postcard? It's okay, yeah. how could you get that kind of information about your target groups? Talk to them, yeah? So you could hire me and I could do 10 focus groups. It's never going to happen as it goes, I suppose, but unlikely. What are 20-minute ways that you could actually get to know more about your audience, talk to your audience? Yeah. You could even brief them to earwig. Yeah.
They already do.
Cool. Yeah. So feedback. You can actually go and sit in your calf as people come out and see what they're talking about. This thing about use the words they use is really, really powerful. So I love what Martin does, where he's actually asking his audience, what are the 7 words you'd use? Do that thing. Just sit in earwig in the. Is that a word, to earwig? Eavesdrop is what I mean. In the cafe or stand outside, or get your team to really listen and remember the words, because what we tend to do is make them all sound a bit more grown up. We tend to reinterpret them a bit more proper, but it's the actual words that become really, really interesting. Yeah. So actually we can do this kind of thing because this is what professional copywriters do. It's called personification, and they'll even do something like look through a magazine, find a picture that looks like their target group, blue tack it to their screen and talk to them. So it's about finding someone you really, really know that's like your target group, so you can do exactly the process that you've done at the moment. Does anyone have personifications already set up? Because some places actually do that. What would Greta say? And you've thought about who Greta is in your audience. So it's a kind of like a shorthand for you and your programmers and the rest of your team talking together about stuff. Useful thing to do. Okay. Did it work again? I mean, did you do this amazing thing where you're suddenly doing all the things that make effective copy? Or did it all go out the window because you were talking to a stranger? Got openers? Yeah. Got clinchers? Yeah, see, it works. It's amazing. Okay, and the difference between this and the last one. Are there any differences?
Slightly less pally, kind of friend to friend. It's a little bit more formal.
Yep. Is she a yours sincerely person? No. So she's not quite yours sincerely, but you can't go, hey. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. So just because you've got this picture in your head of who they are, you're actually being really effective again. So let's do this next bit. Reasons, because I promised. Reasons, not facts nor hype. Audiences are like this. They really are up for new experiences, but they want to take carefully calculated risks. So they need persuading. Just telling them this, it's like we're going, it's on, take it or leave it, and they leave it. So we need to persuade them. Poppy. So features are facts about your work, benefits are reasons why someone should get involved. And I'm using your work because I know that some of you make films and some of you present films and some of you do participatory stuff. The YouGov research says cinema retains its audience because of the quality of the viewing experience. I've just plucked a fact from the research at random. So actually, instead of saying we show classic films, why on earth would somebody want to go and see Mamma Mia, when they could get the CD for a £5 from Morrison's, DVD for a £5 from Morrison's. But if you say, step back in time to the golden age of movie going, if you're doing really classic films, or even I love this, the raddest of retro vibes, iconic one-liners and fist-pumping amazing cinema. Whoa, different target audience, isn't it? But equally powerful, because you're giving them a reason to go, a reason to actually step out the door instead of sit down with microwave popcorn And you do it already. Some of you, you're amazing. So, home of the Edinburgh International Film Festival, that's dull. But the bit at the top is films worth talking about. So that thing of why on earth would you want to go and see a hard documentary about dairy farming? Well, it's something to talk about, you know, in this age of da-da-da-da, you know, supermarket food, all the rest of it. Or rediscover, whose is this? Rediscover the magic of a night at the cinema. Way. Or 3D films at 2D prices. Yeah, reason to go to here and not somewhere else. Or I love this. Find your film. Why on earth would you go to a film festival? Find your film. Yay. It's really cool. Instead of an early 70s ode to the wild passion, attrition and danger of motorsport, comma, Le Mans is arguably far more fascinating now than at the time of its initial release. Yeah, it's not really.
Yes, it is.
The words are hiding the fact that that is a really good reason to attend. Because of the way that sentence is framed, you've hidden the fact that actually this is more interesting now than it even was then. Reason to go and see it. Cool. Love this. The perfect set of 7-word, you know, summaries. You can so just look at this great array of, it's like a chocolate box, because it says, as you look at this amazing screen, exactly what you're going to get. So, you know, real life, colourful, hell on who's, so there. And that's actually not an easy film, is it? Easy film? Whose is that? No, but it's given you a way in that you can then sort of talk about more. Or Kane and Keitel on unmissable form. Okay, it's assuming that they're not going to go who, but you've got the pictures, that's all right, because people can't remember people's names. Yeah, cool, okay. It's about walking in their shoes, this, and you've just done that beautifully with your 2 postcards. The BFI research is really, really helpful because it says, this is the Film Avids research. It gives this gorgeous list of why people go to film based on hundreds of, actually dozens of focus groups. Enjoyment, to manage their emotions. You know, I'm feeling really anxious and I'm either going to see something cheerful to cheer me up or I'm going to really let it all out and weep buckets. At something. Literally, they're regulating how they feel by going through those experiences. Social currency, that means something to talk about. Escaping their worldly cares, poor Anna. Being inspired, helping them through their rites of passage, divorce, marriage, whatever. All those people sitting on their own weeping through movies are, you know, actually managing that process. To belong, to be with other people who are interested or engaged or thinking about the same things, to be different, see the world through different eyes. That's a really big one. Loads of people, even if it's not about them, they want to experience what other people experience and have a window on the world. Gaining knowledge and understanding in an accessible way, that means that feels easy rather than being rather than being interpreted in any way, but it just accessible as in feeling easy to understand. Dairy farming in Denmark, you know, I've actually understood something about the environment in a way that's been really engaging and interesting and easy to do. Yeah, cool. And above all, enjoyment. How many of you write copy that sounds fun? I'll give you a clue. Sentences that start da 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 da, comma, da da da, are not fun. Anyway, I know you gave loads of reasons to Anna because you've just told me, so wow, amazing. Right, I just want to talk about, whoops, let's not do this. Let's not do this. I want to talk about this and I want to talk about one more thing. So this thing about turning people off, I'd be put off by the leaflet straight away, it's so soon, it's so pretentious. Let's talk about how we can resolve this problem. Does anyone remember these hats?
Yeah.
Who's old like me? Yeah. We need to tell them what's in the tin. And some of you are so good at that. This is gorgeous copy. Prepare to take a trip back to the golden age of movie going. Step inside and encounter the past in vivid detail of vintage cinema in intricate sewn and draped fabric. Whoa, just all this beautiful, beautiful description of the experience. There's not a single film on their homepage. It's not a list of films. It's about why should you go to this cinema. Because it's not about them. They're going to come anyway. They're the people going, I want to see Lady in the Van, when's it on? So it's the other people. So what I think we can do is tell them not the story. Don't tell them the story because that's not exciting. I mean, start telling them the story, but don't do a plot synopsis. But describe what it's about. Tell them what it'll be like to watch. I'm going to think about things. And don't name drop because they do not remember names unless they are that your most enthusiastic and loving attenders. I like this because actually it's building audiences for cultural film because it's not about the film, it's keep calm and have a curry. It's a very simple message. Or, here's an interesting one. I love the way you've really thought about how you're going to compete at home with all the other millions of cinemas in Manchester. And this is where people make a choice as to whose website to go to. And you've really thought about what's going to be persuasive. So you've not pretended to be the same as the Odeon, but you're saying home screen's the very best in contemporary and classic cinema. Read our Manchester cinema listings to find out what's on. Click through to the website. That is so compelling because that's such a great call to action. Really, really good. Sometimes it slightly falls apart. This is lovely. Check the latest film listings and films. Oh, that's Cineworld though. Because look what's happened to the Cube. Do you know why that says that? Because Google can't see pictures. And if you don't fill in this thing called a meta description, which is sitting in a table behind each page of your website, what it'll do is it'll look on the website and it'll find something that's going to look like text. It doesn't know what it says, it just slaps it in there. So meta description, what's in the tin? Cool. Right, I'm just going to skip to one last thing. Yeah, here we go. Do you know what the average reading age of people in this country is? 9. Adults, and that's adults. The average reading ability of people in this country is 9. Reading age of the son?
4.
It's only just below average reading attainment. Reading age of the Guardian? It's only just above. Copywriters say we should be aiming at 12 because that's the best balance between complex information and accessibility. Do you know how you can tell? Microsoft Word's got a tool that tells you. But you just have to switch it on. Yeah. So I looked at this piece of copy and it's got a reading age down at the bottom here. This is what comes up when you do a spell check if you've switched on readability. And so because this is school year, it's American so it says grade, it's school year, you've got to add 5 to it. So add 5, that's a reading age of 18! It's more difficult to read than The Guardian. So one of the first things we should be doing is just checking our copy with the Microsoft Word boring readability indicator and just, do you know what the problem is? What's the what's
Loads of words in a sentence.
Yeah, it's really long sentences. Only 1% of the population can get meaning for a sentence of 24 words or more at first reading. 1%. So, 2 things to take away. Number 1, comma. And number 2, reading age of 12. Thank you very much indeed for your interest and engagement and enthusiasm. Brilliant, thank you.